So we got the Patriots at the Bengals. The Bengals come in at minus 7.5 point favorites. How do you see this game shaping out?
Uh, I think it's a little bit more interesting with the news now about Jamar Chase potentially playing, potentially not playing, maybe playing half a game. Who knows with the contract situation? And then T Higgins, I think as of now, is downgraded to doubtful. So whether he plays or not, it's gonna be interesting. I still think the Bengals win this game. Just as a whole, I think the spread is going to be more interesting if you're a betting guy. I just don't. I just think offensively, the Patriots, you could argue, is like in the Carolina range of one of the worst offenses in football.
Yeah, as a Patriots fan myself, I
Yeah.
think they just don't match up with the Bengals well. If you don't have Jamar Chase and you don't have T. Higgins, I definitely think this game can be close. If it is still a 7.5 point spread, I definitely could see the Patriots potentially keeping it close. This might not be a very high offensive game. The best I see the Patriots scoring is maybe, I would say, somewhere between 10 to 17 points. I don't see them
Over under is
scoring
at
more than three
41.
touchdowns. Over under right now is at 40.5.
Oh, it's okay. I see at 41
But
right now, but yeah.
going into Cincinnati week one is going to be a tough game regardless of who's on the field for Cincinnati. New head coach. You've got kind of a filler quarterback. You've got a rookie who's kind of in waiting in the Patriots. So I think the Bengals take this game and they go 1-0, and the Patriots start their tough season. Next up,
Okay.
we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons coming in at minus 3.5 point favorites. I really like the Falcons in this football game. I think they match up well against the Steelers. I'm really excited to see what this Falcons offense looks like now that they've been freed from Arthur Smith. I'm excited to see what Kirk Cousins looks like working with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I just think this offense is going to be really potent. I know the Steelers come in with a really strong defense, but I'm not really high on what Russell Wilson brings as a quarterback to the Steelers offense. They struggled to score points last year. Russell Wilson did not look super sharp in Denver. So I think this is going to be a game that falls in favor of the Falcons, and I think the Falcons are going to have a pretty good year after starting off 1-0. What do you think?
I'm on the other side of this. I actually like the Steelers here. Defensively, I just think that you're looking at one of the best defensive teams in football. And you have Kirk Cousins, who was out a lot of the year last year, coming back from a major surgery, leg injury. So I think it could be a little bit rusty. And new QB, new offense for Kirk. He's got a lot of good weapons, but I do have just concerns with that. And it's an Arthur Smith revenge game. I don't think there's anyone better here to hand Atlanta their first loss in Arthur Smith. I do have concerns with the QB play in Pittsburgh. I just think defensively, we're probably going to look at a low scoring game here, probably like a 20-17 type of game, 21-17. But I do like the Steelers defensively. Just, TJ Watt's going to eat. TJ Watt will eat this in this game.
All right, the next game on the slate we have here, we have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Buffalo to face the Buffalo Bills. What do you think about this football game?
So right now the Bills, from what I see, are at -6.5. I will take the Bills to win this game, but I do think Arizona covers the spread here. If anybody has watched the podcast before, you probably know that I am not high in the Bills whatsoever. They lost so many defensive pieces on the offense. They have no wide receiver one, to be honest. So I just think a lot of these maybe mediocre teams are going to be able to compete well with the Bills. So I will take the Bills to win, but Arizona to cover the spread here. I think people are going to be surprised by how good this Arizona offense is going to be with a healthy Kyler, and I expect big years from James Conner, Marvin Harrison, and Trey McBride here. So I will go Bills.
Yeah, I like the Buffalo Bills as well. I mean, coming into this game at home, a 1 o'clock game in Buffalo, Bills Mafia is going to be kind of roaring. I think Josh Allen has a lot to prove this year. I think he wants to make a statement. I know he doesn't have the best of wide receivers, but they are a better team than the Arizona Cardinals, kind of through and through. Last time these two teams faced, just a little tidbit, was the Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins last second touchdown on the Hail Mary. So the Hail Murray was the last time these two teams faced. I don't think the game's going to be that close, personally. I think the Bills are going to cover the spread in this one. But yes, I like Buffalo at home. We got Titans going to the Chicago Bears. Bears come in as -3.5 point favorites. Caleb Williams opening debut for the Chicago Bears. I'm excited to see what he looks like in this Bears offense. They have a really good system put in place for him. They've put the wide receivers and the running backs in positions to succeed and help him grow as a quarterback. I do like the Bears in this football game. I think they're going to be a pretty solid team. Right now, the Titans are, DeAndre Hopkins is questionable. But I do think the Bears are able to win this game at home, take a 1-0 lead. I think the Titans are probably the weakest team in their division. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears in week one.
I'm in the same boat. Don't trust a guy who puts mayonnaise in his coffee. With all due respect to Will Levis. Yeah, I think D Hop's dealing with an MCL tear of some sort, like a minor one. So even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. Will Levis, even though he is a gunslinger, I just think he makes some questionable decisions. And again, Caleb Williams is going into the best case scenario there in Chicago with that offense and a really good defense as well. So I am going to take the Bears, and I do think they actually cover the spread.
We got the Houston Texans traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Texans coming in as a minus 3 point road favorite here in Indianapolis. What do you think about this football game?
I really like the Texans here. Offensively, I think they have the best receiving core in football. 1 through 3. That's all guys you can make an all star, all pro selections. Excuse me. And defensively, I think they're very sound. Defensive front and some of their corners are so good. I do have a little bit of concerns with the Colts, even though I do have them making the playoffs by the end of the year. I just think first game for AR back. It's gonna be a little shaky for him. Missed a lot of last year. And yeah, I'm gonna take the Texans and for them to cover the spread here as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be going the opposite way. I like the Colts here at home. I think Anthony Richardson coming back into this offense brings a dynamic that the Texans really didn't get to see. The Texans are 0-10 in their last 10 openers. So I like the Colts to kind of steal one here. I think in division games they're always going to be tight. I know the Texans and the Colts have gone back and forth over the years, but I think the Colts are going to be a stronger team than most people anticipate. I think they take week 1 here against the Texans, but the Texans are going to rebound in a big way in the coming weeks. Jacksonville Jaguars traveling south to Miami to face off against the Dolphins. Dolphins coming into this game as 3.5 point favorites. What do you like about this football game?
I really like the Dolphins here. One of the you could probably say the fastest offense in football. I just don't think Jacksonville is going to have the defense to kind of keep up with it and contain Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, even Raheem Mostert or Devon Achane. I just I'm going to take the Dolphins here, and I'm going to take them to cover the spread as well. I think they win by more than a field goal. So Jacksonville is I think them and Tennessee are probably my two least favorite teams in this division. I see them battling out for that last place. I just I don't trust Jacksonville's offense, especially their receiving talent. I don't think Christian Kirk's a true wide receiver one. Um, Even though I do like ETN. Outside of that, I just don't think they can contain the offense for Miami.
Yeah, this Jacksonville Jaguars offense has too many question marks for me as well, and this Miami Dolphins team is just too fast. There are not a lot of teams that can match up with them defensively. The Dolphins last year had a top 10 defense, and I think that defense is trying to improve every single year, and I think they are going to take a big step forward this year as well. I do like Miami to cover here at home. Last year they exploded at home. They played really well at home. They struggled on away games, especially in the cold. But here at home in Miami, week 1, I think they take care of this in-state rivalry against Jacksonville, if that's what we're going to call it. Miami Dolphins go 1-0 in week 1. The Carolina Panthers are coming into week 1 to face off against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints come in as minus 4 point favorites. I like the Saints to win this game here. I think their offense and defense is a little more complete at this current time than the Panthers. I have a lot of questions about what Bryce Young is and how he's going to perform in his second year here in the NFL. I know he struggled. He doesn't have the greatest team around him. I do expect the Panthers to improve slightly this year from where they were last year. They definitely took strides in the second half of the season to improve on their defense. But I think the Saints at home, I think they're going to have a good start this year. Their defense is still relatively the same. A very sound defense that's going to give Bryce Young a lot of trouble.
I'm in the same but opposite boat as you at the same time here. I do like the Saints to win this game, but I do think Carolina covers the spread. This is the Saints defense. I think you're still looking at one of them probably top 10 defenses in football. And then on the Carolina side of things, or I think that's what's going to propel the Saints over Carolina as a whole. But I did like what Carolina did this offseason, kind of trying to help Bryce Young here. They spend on the offensive line. You bring in Deontay, you draft Jonathan Brooks, who is hurt right now, unfortunately. This is more so of what Bryce Young can do. I think it's going to be a rough start for him for this year, but overall, I do have the Saints actually finishing last in their division. I do not like their offense whatsoever. But I do think the Saints will squeak out a win here at home thanks to their defense. So.
We got the Minnesota Vikings traveling to New Jersey to face off against the New York Giants. Vikings coming in at minus 1.5 point favorites, so essentially a pick 'em here in this football game. I like the Vikings to go on the road and win week one in New York. I think the Vikings offense has a few more weapons that I'm a little excited to see. I'm excited to see how their new running game works now that they have Aaron Jones. And I think Justin Jefferson is still a top three wide receiver with or without his number one quarterback. I know JJ McCarthy's hurt, he's out for the year. But I still think Justin Jefferson is that guy that if you give him a 50-50 ball, he's going to go get it more times than not. The Giants looked unimpressive in the preseason, and I just don't know what their offense is going to look like this year. They struggled to pass the ball in the preseason, even when they had their number ones out there. Their defense is solid, and their defense has been solid for a couple of years. But if that offense can't score more than 14 points on its own, I think it's going to be really tough to beat teams in the NFL.
I'm in the opposite boat here as you actually. I'm going to lean the Giants here. They are at home, which I think gives them the advantage here as well. But the defensive line for the Giants, I think, is one of the better ones in football with Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and the new addition of Brian Burns. Brian Dable takes over play calling duties, which I do think will benefit the Giants, even though their offense is pretty bad. I just think that defensive line's going to pressure Sam Darnold, make him very uneasy, and he's trying to play for his potential career, but another contract. I do think JJ is still going to eat. But overall, I think it's going to be a little bit of a low scoring game. I had the Giants winning 23-20. And thanks to their defensive line, Sam Darnold's going to make a few mistakes in this game. So
We got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Los Angeles to face off against the Chargers in Jim Harbaugh's debut back in the NFL after leaving Michigan. What do you think about this football game? How do you think Harbaugh does in week one?
in this game, I am going to lean the Chargers here at home. Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, they're going to have one of the more very run heavy offenses in this league, maybe outside of Baltimore with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. This is more so, I am a little bit skeptical on the Raiders offense. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. They do have Devontae, which I do like this year, but I still think the Chargers have a pretty solid defense. Joey Bosa, and Khalil Mack in the front, and then Asante Samuel in the back with Derwin James. Their defense has been a little questionable over the past few years, but I think they kind of figure it out and are going to be able to hold this Raiders offense over under at 40. I think that's probably right around where that score is going to be. I am going to lean Chargers here, 23, about 17, 23-19. I could see, so I will lean Chargers.
Yeah, I like the Chargers here as well. Although coming into this ball game, obviously we know the rivalry between Devontae Adams and the Los Angeles Chargers. Social media has been tweeting out some questionable things about Devontae Adams. So we know Devontae Adams' history. He averages about 120 yards a game against the Chargers. I think he has a pretty big game in week one. Ultimately, I think the Chargers are just the better football team. I do like that two-headed running attack that they got with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, like you said. I'm a little bit worried about some of the receiving options for Herbert, but I think he's a good enough quarterback to make it work with what he's got. But like you said, the Raiders' offense, it just poses too many questions for me. Outside of Devontae Adams, I'm not super high on a ton of them. Losing Josh Jacobs to me is a pretty big loss for that team. He was a big part of why they were able to successfully run the ball at times, and he's also a guy that you can give the ball to 20, 30 times a game and expect him to really churn out positive yards in those later downs. So I like the Chargers to go 1-0 and Jim Harbaugh's return to the NFL. The Denver Broncos are traveling to Seattle to face off against the Seahawks in the 12th man. The Seahawks come in as a -6 favorite in this football game. I like the Seahawks in this game. I just like the Seahawks at home. I think that their offense is a little more put together from what it was last year. I'm hoping to see Geno kind of improve on his position last year with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and continue to grow. They still have a really solid running game with Kenneth Walker. So I'm excited to see what their team looks like. Defensively, I think we know the Seahawks are generally a pretty sound defensive team. They have a new defensive coordinator in there who I think is going to really kind of spice things up a little bit. But again, for the Broncos, Bo Nix is an interesting choice to start week one. I know we know how much the Saints like to utilize their running backs, and I think with a guy like Sean Payton, you're going to see Bo Nix getting a lot of short passes to his running backs. But ultimately, I think the Seahawks come out on top here. Over under set at 41.5. I see the Seahawks win this game 24-17.
I'm in the same boat as you. I think the home field advantage. I think Seattle has one of the better home field advantages amongst football. So with that, I will lean Seattle, but I can see a world where Denver does cover the spread at -6, or I guess in their case +6. I think you hit the nail on the head there with Sean Payton and Javonte Williams. I'm big on Javonte this year in fantasy, but I think just week one, starting a rookie QB, Bo Nix. Seattle did pick up Mike McDonald, who was the Ravens' defensive coordinator. I think that will massively improve Seattle's defense and will be able to hold off Bo Nix in his debut. So I do see Seattle winning this game. I can see the score about, in my opinion, 24-20, 27-20, around that range. Not the highest scoring game of the week, but I think it'll be an interesting game.
Dallas Cowboys are traveling to Cleveland to face off against the Browns. The Cowboys are coming in as underdogs, but the Browns at favorites at -2.5. How do you see this game shaping out week one?
I'm very surprised Dallas comes in actually as the underdog here. I would expect them to be the maybe lean on the favorite side. So I do think there's a lot of value here in just taking Cowboys money line. As according to what I use, they're at +110. I am going to lean Cowboys here. I do have a lot of questions and concerns about this Cleveland offense, mainly about Deshaun Watson. What version of him are we going to see? Texans Deshaun Watson was, you could argue, an elite QB, maybe one of the top 10 QBs in football. And when he came back last year from his injury, just would look like a bottom 10 QB last year. They do add Jerry Jeudy, which, improves that offense, but it's just a matter of what Deshaun does and how he looks. I think Dallas is going to defensively, one of the better defensive units in football. You get Diggs back. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Deshaun, and he's going to make a few mistakes. I see Dallas squeaking out a win here, probably about a score of 23-21, maybe around, 27-21. So I will lean Dallas here.
Yeah, I'm curious to see Dallas coming in as underdogs. I really like the Cleveland Browns defense. I talked a lot about it on the last show. I think the Browns offer a very unique set of defensive capabilities, both in the secondary, but also up front with their front four. But Dallas's offense is too good. I mean, I know Dak Prescott doesn't perform in the postseason, but this team offensively last year in the regular season, the years before, have just been too dominant. I don't see them losing week one here against Cleveland. It's going to be a close game for sure. It's going to be a highly watched game as it's Tom Brady's debut as an analyst in the Fox booth. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he has to say. I think people are excited to see what he has to say, as Tony Romo has talked a lot of things about the Patriots over the years. So, what comes is coming. But yeah, I like the Cowboys to win here in week one. I think they're going to have a pretty solid season, but it's ultimately going to come down to how they perform in the postseason. The Washington Commanders are traveling to Tampa Bay. Jaden Daniels' debut, but they are coming in as underdogs. All right. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at -3.5 are the favorites here. I like the Bucks at home. I really like Baker Mayfield. I like Mike Evans. I like Chris Godwin. I like Rashad White. I just like that offense. It clicks. It's not super flashy at times, but it gets the job done. I think Washington has a lot to improve on from last year after going 4-13. Jaden Daniels is definitely a step in the right direction. I think he's going to make a pretty solid quarterback as long as he's able to protect his body. I know in college he had some issues with not going down when he should. As long as they teach him how to protect his body, I think he's going to be a really valuable asset for that Washington Commanders team. It's just too early for him to be winning these types of games. If this game was in Washington, I think we'd have a different conversation. But traveling into Tampa Bay, I like Baker Mayfield coming off a really impressive end of the season last year. I think he really, now with his new contract, puts his foot on the ground and starts to make a name for himself in this league again. A guy who had a lot of promise as a young player. Now he's showing what he's capable of.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here. I'm actually going to take the Buccaneers. I do like them covering the spread at 3.5, -3.5 as well. More so on the fact that if you look at last year, Tampa was on that run. They won 5 of their last 6 regular season games. They upset the Eagles and move on to the divisional round where they end up losing. But this is more so the fact that you're coming in with a rookie QB on the Washington side. You draft a new offensive lineman that their left tackle. And you add to that offensive line in free agency. But I think Vita Vea is going to be able to get to Jaden Daniels, make him again uncomfortable like some of these other rookie QBs. And I just see Jaden Daniels again making maybe one too many mistakes in this game. And I see the Buccaneers covering the spread. I'm going to take them at a score of 27-17.
Well, we've been waiting all day for a Sunday night. We got the Rams and the Lions. The Lions are coming in at -4.5 point favorites. This is a clash of two titans. These are two playoff teams in my eyes. I really like the Lions, though. I think their offense is going to be really improved from last year. I mean, their offense was good last year, but I think they're going to take another step forward this year. I think at times we saw the Lions kind of struggle offensively in some key situations. I don't think that's the case this year. The offense is potent, but I know Puka is kind of battling a little bit of an injury here. So it's going to be interesting to see how they start the season. But ultimately, I think the Lions come out on top at home in front of their fans in a clash of two Titans.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. You hit the nail on the head there. I am going to take the Lions to cover the spread as well. I do have a little bit of concerns, especially defensive for the Rams team. You know, you lose Aaron Donald, he retires. You know, that's going to really shake up that defensive unit there and for LA. You come into one of the probably better offenses. You can even argue a top three offense in Detroit. They have, weapons on every type. You know, they have the best offensive line in football. You have a star receiver in Amon Ra, one of the best tight ends in Sam Laporta. You have a two-headed monster there with David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. Puka's coming a little banged up. Um, I don't think the Rams are be able to stop this Lions offense. I have them winning by a score of 33 to 27. I'm gonna take the Lions.
Monday Night Football, the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers at the helm are going to be traveling into San Francisco to face Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, who come in at minus 4.5 point favorites. How do we see this game shaping out? How do we see Rodgers return to the field?
Um, I think it's gonna be a little bit shaky. You know, he misses the entire year. But the unfortunate injury. I am very high on the Jets this year, but they are going to San Francisco. If the Jets were home, I think I would like the Jets a little bit better here. But we know the 49ers is going to be one of the top teams in that NFC. You know, offense, they have all pros everywhere. Defensively, they're one of the best defensive teams in football. I think they're going to be able to get to Rodgers, make him a little uncomfortable. He's going to be still on a new team technically. We haven't really seen Rodgers on that team in the regular season. So I do think it's going to be a little bit shaky for Rodgers. Again, missed the whole year. I'm going to go San Francisco here by a score of 27-21.
Yeah, I think San Francisco is able to handle the Jets. I mean, both teams have capable offenses, both teams have capable defenses, but the Niners have a better offense. And I think the Niners kind of slightly edge the Jets in defensive capability as well. I just think it's going to be a game that leans in favor of the home team. And this game being played in San Francisco is a big factor for me. I like the Jets. I'm pretty high on the Jets having a really solid year. But I just don't think they're able to match what the 49ers bring, especially with McCaffrey, Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle. That offense is too hard to cover all of them. You know, you have Sauce Gardner on one side, but he can't cover every person on the field. So it's going to rely on the linebackers having to make plays, and I just don't think the Jets have those guys in place right now. Rodgers stepping back onto the field. Hopefully he lasts more than 3 plays. I really want to see him have a full season, see what he's still capable of doing. But the 49ers are the better team here. They're going back to the NFC Championship, in my opinion. So 49ers go 1-0 week 1 against the Jets. Just to recap our week 1 selections for Sunday, Sunday Night Football, and Monday night. Sean's got the Bengals. I have the Bengals. Sean's got the Steelers. I have the Falcons. Sean has the Bills. I also have the Bills. We both are on the Bears. Sean has the Texans. I have the Colts. Both of us like the Dolphins. Both of us like the Saints. Sean likes the Giants. I like the Vikings. Both on the Chargers, Seahawks, Cowboys, Bucks, Lions, and the 49ers. So that wraps up our week 1 selections.